We now come to the penultimate session for the book launches with Postcard Poems by Mugdha Sinha. These poems focus on love, loss, and longing. Sprinkled with wit and wisdom, the style is a return to childhood innocence and a balance between raw and refined sensibilities. Chairing the session is Kumar Shravan, Dean and Professor of English Language and Communication in the Uttaranchal University, who is a Hindi poet with 13 books to his credit. He is also the National Vice President of the English Language Teachers Association, which recently held its annual conference in Doon. In conversation with the author is Aditi Bisht from the English department of the Doon University. Aditi was in charge of the Gaura Devi National Debate on Human Rights, recently organized by VoW, Doon University, and the NHRC. We invite the panelists to begin this session, which is sure to appeal to all poetic minds.
Should we start now? Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to extend my heartiest gratitude to our very much own Sri Sanjeev Chopra ji, who has given me this opportunity to sit on the dais with Mugdha madam. And I'm really very nervous to see Ganesh sir sitting in front of me, yeah, because I'm just following him. So, one fine day, I got a call from Chopra sir and he said, I wish to invite you for one of the sessions. I said, okay, sir, I'll definitely come. Then again, one fine day, I got a mail that you need to launch a book. And I was very happy to note that I'm going to launch a book because I involve myself, in inculcating the reading habits, the B-books, not e-books. So I was very happy that I'm going to launch the book. Then on one fine day, I got a postcard. And when I got the postcard, I was mesmerized to see this postcard. And there was a flashback of my childhood when I used to read the postcards. And then it reminded me that, see, in postcards, gagar mein sagar wala hal hota hai. So I found that there is a brevity. And brevity is soul of wit, as Shakespeare has mentioned. Then I started flipping this book. And I found that the metaphor which has been used for this book, the postcard, the brevity, the preciseness, and the courage to control the emotions in those a few limited words. Then I flipped 2 or 3 more pages, and I found there are 149 poems in this collection of book, in this anthology. And it reminded me that 149 centers around healing and self-care. Followed by this healing and self-care, I saw the first phase that was dedicated to love, followed by umbra and light. Then I remember, once any person is in love, definitely he or she will have to face the ups and downs. And once the person who is and who has gone through all the ups and downs, one or other day, he or she will definitely see the light. So how beautifully she has divided the entire anthology in 3 parts. Then I started reading the 1 or 2 poems. Then it reminded me Benjamin Franklin. It reminded me R.W. Emerson, Oscar Wilde, and S.T. Coleridge. And just after a few minutes, it reminded me Kamla Das. And then it told me that, see, this is a kind of genre where she's going to talk about the confessional poet. Even I would like to request our moderator to ask this question, whether these lines are confessional ones or not. And as we all are following Insta, X, and other social media handles, then it reminded me Rupi Kaur, who has written that I'm not the whiskey you want. I'm not the whiskey you want. I'm the water you need. In the same way, when I read her first poem, means I picked the first poem, pine is not just a tree, but also how I think of you, the metonymy which she has used. और तब मेरे दिल के अंदर से ये कसक निकल के आती है कि प्रेम न होता इस जग में, प्रेम न होता इस जग में तो सारा जग बंजारा होता, ईश्वर तक अपराधी होता, पूरा खेल दोबारा होता, पूरा खेल दोबारा होता. I'll take not much time, but I'll ask my moderator to introduce the author of the day, and then we'll keep talking further. Aditi.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, sir. Ms. Mugdha Sinha is a writer of mixed pedigree and international travels. She alternates between writing sarkari note sheets and poetry. And even though ma'am specifically asked not to share about her bureaucratic background, however, I think ma'am it's necessary to set a note. Her poems were first published in college by the iconic Kamla Das as the poetry editor of Femina, igniting a publication spree in various English journals, including the Indian Literature by Sahitya Akademi. She has been moderating more than 100 sessions with renowned Indian and foreign authors, and she has collaborated with varied different writing and literary circles. She also doodles, and this caught my attention, she also doodles meditative mandalas and paints wine vodka bottles under her brand name, Bottle is Canvas, and I think all of us should visit that Insta page. It's brilliant what ma'am has done in there. A relentless bibliophile who runs an annual book reading challenge on her Instagram handle at Bookspeak 2020. Again, another one to follow. Ma'am has till now read 42 books this year. So I think that's an achievement in itself. So let us applaud her for that. So just to begin with the title first, ma'am.
Aditi, can we launch the books, because
okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, before listen to her.
All right.
Yeah.
Good things that she's done, she's my professional.
I told you, Ganesha, that was coming. Thank you, I'm honored to be a professional.
Thank you. See, unlike other relationships, this starts first.
Yes. Thank you.
So ma'am, beginning with the title. Postcard, as sir also said that as soon as he received this postcard, he was filled with a sense of nostalgia. He was taken back to his past. So any specific reason, ma'am, why you wrote the title as Postcard Poems?
Thank you very much, everyone, and a special mention to Sanjeev sir for having me here. It's an honor to be a part of the Valley of Words for the second or third time now, for different reasons. And thank you to Shravan and Aditi for adding the glam quotient in this. Yes. And thank you to everybody for your attention. So let's begin with what I think of love, because the moment you talk about love, it's that very vernacular, colloquial, love on the street meaning. But for me, love is not just a noun, it is a verb. Eric Fromm has said something very beautiful: to have love or to be loving. My poems are basically the latter, the usage of love as a verb. If you want to beget the love that you want, you have to become loving. So that is where my font of poetry springs from, at least in this book. We live in very paradoxical times where we are deeply tech connected, but we are deeply alienated and isolated, and our attention spans are very less. I'm a great fan of epigrammatic poetry, and I think also because we've lost this art of writing and reading. Since I'd already played with words, I thought, how about making love, disseminating love through postcards, because it is just a very small measure. My love language is a physical touch. I love to hug people, I love to touch people, I love to shake hands. I love people, and I think this postcard poems is just my way to say that, if you love somebody, the only regret one has is not being able to say the things you wanted to say when that person was there. So the postcard poems basically is my effort to transmit the love that I have, and I hope that the chain that I've started will continue with people passing on, scribbling, copying from this and scribbling and giving to the people that they love. So love is not just towards a person, love is to create an ecosystem where love becomes a human chain and keeps us all bound together in more universal kind of love.
So since we are on the topic of love, ma'am, the three sections that you have divided it into. So love, umbra, and light, right? Between umbra and light, do you think love stands for that gray zone penumbra which we are missing?
You cannot, it's like the light enters from the crack. So you have to love very deep to be able to become loving. You, as I think Tejendra Luthra ji was also mentioning, empathy comes. The cruelty of the world can either make you very cruel or it can make you kind. And kindness is an echo that always comes back to you. The wisdom doesn't come, in a moment. It's not like a eureka moment. It comes with age, some of it with age, and I think lots of it with your lived experience. Just like they say that grief is a payment of how you have loved, so my poetry is a measure of the pain that I have received or I have undergone. And I hate to say the pain and all this as a very cliched manner. I'm very thankful, actually, for all the strivings. I hate the word struggle. I hate the word challenge. It's striving. I love the word striving because it's very futuristic. It's very in the moment. It's very progressive in that sense. So it is a return from, the heavens. It's like a manna for me, for everything that I've gone through, to be able to express how I feel. I've been writing these poems for the longest time, but never had the courage to come out because I was probably not ready. As they say, the student is ready, only when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and when the student is ready, the teacher disappears. So I was in that zone. I was not ready because I was scared of being judged, because I don another hat of being a bureaucrat, a single person. So it becomes very easy for society to judge you when you talk of love. So I wanted to grow in maturity and wisdom to be able to handle the reaction. And also I wanted to learn, so this is how I've grown in poetry, and this is how I've grown in life. So the words have always meant so much to you. Words by different people have brought about so much of change in my life. I'm just paying it back, paying it forward to everything that I've received from this universe.
That's
Aditi,
you will be saying,
you
ma'am.
know, कुछ हिंदी पंक्तियां मेरे मन में आई हैं मैडम की ये बातें सुनकर. वो मेरी नहीं है, किसी और ने कही है कि जर्रा हूँ रह गुजर के, जर्रा हूँ रह गुजर के, चमक छोड़ जाऊंगा, शीशा हूँ टूट के, खनक छोड़ जाऊंगा, शीशा हूँ टूट के, खनक छोड़ जाऊंगा.
Right. So, since you talked about, ma'am, that you've been writing since maybe a longest time ever, right? But love as an emotion holds, because all the poems are, especially under the section love, it's not love you write about, it's every emotion connected to it, right? So you've written about friendship, the dilemma, the unrequited love that is there, the passion, the romance, everything. Is there any one specific poem in this section that you feel it's very close to you, or you feel it is the soul of this particular section?
So you're asking me to choose between babies, very difficult, but I will read something which I like, which is so it's not my favorite, there are others also, but I think this encapsulates my journey best. It's called Transformation. I held on to the stem while petal by petal the flower was wilting. From withering, spring was born. In healing, I healed. The wound is now a sacred heart. From seeking, Buddha was born.
Thank you, ma'am. This actually, this was one of the ones
Can
that
I also read one more?
Yes, please. I'd love to hear.
So I come from again I'm using a cliche trope. I come from a small town, studied in Delhi, of course, and all through my UPSC preparation, we didn't have light in our town. So this is an ode to a bulb, which has taught me lots. A 20-watt, blue-eyed filament bulb with its glowing incandescence has the audacity to stand up to a dark, unyielding night, crafting a luminescent halo equal to the ebony moon, absent from the skies. Under its light, I learned how a tiny source of light devours a mighty night.
Wow. Beautiful, ma'am. Beautiful. So, ma'am, since you also talked about that you have really striven through all this journey of your life, right? And at this position where you are at, I could sense hints of rebellion also in certain poetry, especially in relation to standing up as a woman. There was one, I think, where
There are many lines which represents.
one where I don't know, I've missed that. I've written so many pages now. Where she takes that the woman is not the homemaker, right? She is an entrepreneur, right? So that hits real hard, and in a very, जैसे वो गागर में सागर, as sir said, that वो बिल्कुल hit करा इसे अच्छी तरीके से. I felt that for the if there is ever a translation, ma'am, I think there will be many women who would love to read these poetry, because they connect to a much deeper level. So how did this come about?
So the experience of a woman is a lived experience. It's a very personal experience, but it's also a very generic and a universal experience. We have so many women sitting in the audience. The interface with society, because somehow, because of years of history, we also live in a patriarchal society. The fact that man became a sedentary human being and wanted to possess things, so it's a very capitalist notion. The invention of the fire, actually, it's deeply interconnected how patriarchy and property got linked together. and how women became a part and parcel. In fact, the concept of virginity also evolves from the fact that my son, this mera tera in this world. So my poetry is an outreach to look beyond, because as Baba Ramdas says, there is no other. When this game of this world, of the materialistic capitalist world gets over, the king and the pawn go back in the same box, no? And there's this beautiful Panchatantra story about the lion and the mouse, no? You never know this natural force. There is a creator above us that knows how to bring about this great Jeffrey Archer kind of a twist in the tail. So I think we should aspire very high, but we should always walk on this ground. And that walking on the ground as a woman, amidst everything, has taught me a lot of things. And I stand very humble before you because I'm really grateful. There was a time in my life when I would be angry and I would be helpless, and I would feel bad that this is a person who's done this to me. But today I think that no, I mean, I'm very benefit of doubt and forgiving towards people, because I think no, they are just nimit madhya. If I do good and I am a nimit madhya, something else somebody does to me, he's a nimit madhya. And people who hurl abuses or do some kind of things, they come from a very, very, a lack mentality. My mom has taught me that do not be an iron that chases, be a magnet that attracts, okay? So I sit in absolutely Zen state. I mean, of course, this has happened over the years with a lot of wisdom and with a lot of attrition, with a lot of good people I've met in my life, that I've realized today that everything that is meant to be in my life will come to me. And there is nothing of course, there's a striving involved because that betters me, but everybody who comes in my life either gives me love or gives me a lesson, and leaders are born from lessons. And leaders end up giving love, born from those lessons.
Wonderfully said.
So I am very, very happy that I've met so many people in my life who've made beautiful contributions to my life, and they're all also pawns in hands of God, no? They've come to elevate me to a higher level of being. So I'm very selfish when it comes to my own personal self-development and care. I don't look at what is happening. My comparison is totally with me. I'm very, very focused in that. You can keep me, I'm like the hydrophobic leaves of the lotus, no? You can do whatever you want with me, and I will still, whatever I have to do, I will just focus on that and continue to strive to. So I'm grateful to everyone. And these poems are my gratitude to.
I think you should have corroborated with your views, which you have written more or less. The more I begin to trust myself, the less I remember who you are. So the selfish, the approach, the personality of I. Yeah, Aditi, please.
I will also read one more. Sorry for have butted it. It's called Abuses. It goes like this. I gather abuses like one gathers flowers. The bouquet is what it is, an eyesore. The flowers will eventually dry, wilt, disintegrate. The vase will always hold a dead weight of memory. So, fairy tale retold. All fairy tales begin well, unmindful of an ending. Every once upon a time has a moral character, irrespective of a happily ever after. The point is never in the story or how it begins, how it ends, but what we make of it. For many a times, life often begins from where the story ends.
So, ma'am, I was going through an interview that you might have given like two years back, I think. to this person, Karthik Gagar, I think. Yeah, you spoke about the role of 3 A's: the artist, the art, and the audience, right? So, do you think, since you were reading this, and these poems, even though, at times they would think that maybe they are a poem of love and loss and longing, but they uplift you, right? When I was reading that, it was a very satisfied reading at the end of the day. It was like, I have, my hunger for something solid has been taken care of. So how do you see this book as connecting to the mass audience? Like, because since they're very personal in nature, must have been difficult to, first of all, just come out with them that you shared, right? But how do you think that, how has the reception been, and all that? Yeah.
So there's a lot of misconceptions that we have in the world, which is all societal conditioning. And one of the societal conditionings is that, vulnerability is not courage, is not strength. And I think I make a statement with my poems that, being vulnerable is courageous. As Brené Brown says, being vulnerable is an act of courage. It's bravery in a way, because this whole conditioning that we have, that men can't cry, and that strong women cannot break down, can't have a meltdown. This is leading to a lot of mental health, depression, because it's considered to be taboo. Today, if you look at the popular culture, it's so easy to talk about sex, but it's very difficult to talk about depression and mental health. And I think what you can't say in prose, you can very easily say in poetry without impacting, without the adverse consequences of shoes being hurled at you. So I think poetry does it in a more graceful manner. So my choice of poetry as an instrument to say the kind of things that I want to say to the world. Also, I think poetry has always been a metaphor for, a strong political statement, making strong political statements. It's always poetry, be it Pash, be it Dushyant, be it Wang, who's been writing poetry of these epigrammatic kinds lately. So my understanding is that, given the fact that I want my poems to be provocative, I don't want people to just read and forget about them. I want them to read, I want them to sink inside of them, and I want them to think. Because the world has not been won by the sword. It has been won by the word. And the words can really deeply impact you. And the idea of bringing this out into the world is to make a change in the world with whatever I have to offer to this world. Because I know what words have done to me, how the words have been my scaffolds in very, very difficult times. Because there are times when you have to be strong, because otherwise you can be taken advantage of. And there are times when you don't want to unburden yourselves to anybody, because you are not very sure whether they are emotionally ready to even, hear your pain, because your pain can also impact another person's. And what do? So it's between the pillow and the poetry that you swing. It's so then for me, poetry becomes that my own individual journey, a universal metaphor for what people like me have gone through. And my poetry is also a seeking. It's a seeking, like an ambivert. I'm an ambivert. I go out into the world, offer myself to the world, because I want, through attrition with people, through interaction with people, to become a better person. But then I also come back and introspect and sit with myself. So it is between this liminal space of moving out and exposing myself to the public, and then coming back and sitting in deep meditation, that it's between this space that my poetry grows, like a plant from the crevices in the walls.
That's beautifully said, ma'am. Pillow and poetry between them. So, ma'am, how did, just taking a little bit shift from postcard poems, how did the the paintings on the bottles, how did it start? I was just curious to know that.
So I think everything grows out of necessity. So I had this great urge some 15 years back when I was posted in Delhi. I really wanted to paint. I've always painted. I didn't have a medium to express. I didn't have a canvas. I didn't have a paper. I always have paints and brushes left over from earlier times. So this idea struck me that I had a vodka bottle, half emptied vodka bottle. And I decided that let me just empty this because let me just try my hands on the vodka bottle. And I drew a sunflower. Yes, sir, I did waste, but that little waste of the vodka actually helped me grow into art. So that vodka went down the drain, but that bottle I still have preserved because inspired by Van Gogh's sunflower, I drew a sunflower on that bottle. And then the journey didn't stop. And there was an exchange which happened. I would sell my raddi to the raddi wala in exchange for empty bottles, and I would specify to him. And so I knew everybody in the colony who would drink. So it's great with where the bottles are coming from. So and then when I put up an exhibition in Jawahar Kala Kendra in Jaipur of my meditative mandalas and my this thing, and a lot of people, bureaucrats, police officers, politicians, when they came, suddenly my guard would call me one day and said, "Ki madam, ek bahut bada sa carton aaya aapke liye. Isme kuch daru ki bottle lag rahi hain." So there was no daru in that. There was all these empty bottles. So I kind of, just like my own life, I think, from what I have gone through, I've made something out of my life from all of life's experiences. Just like that, I think I've also converted these ugly-looking bottles which would have been thrown or ended up in a landmine into art. And I have about a collection of 400 bottles today.
So, ma'am, in the end of Lines for Readers of Poetry, I was just going through that. So, you had written that in the end, only truth, beauty, and love remain. The truth and beauty, the beauty and truth and love in both. So I was reminded of John Keats while reading this. So since you are very passionate about, ma'am, arts and culture, so do you think art is the best form of communication to put forth your ideas and views?
I think art is one of the forms of communication. There are other forms. Gardening could be another form of communication. There are different love languages. But I think art is like what he said, You go to a party and you don't bother for water, right? You drink your cocktails, you have your mocktails, you have hard liquor. But when you choke on something, you go look for water, right? So art is like water. You ignore it till you actually need it. And I think we all need a little bit of art because we are all artists. And art cannot flourish without audiences. So when I talk of that triangle, art, artists, audience, and people like us who do art administration all have to come together. Because John Berger writes, how the spectator or the audience here consumes my poetry or consumes my art adds another dimension to art or to culture for that matter. There are two theories of culture. One which says that culture is a property. We own culture, right? I come from a certain town. I come from a certain intermixed pedigree. So I own that culture. There's another theory which says that culture is made from human interaction. And now culture is also being made from the human to machine interaction, the man to machine interaction, which is called the cybernetic culture. How that use of technology is changing us as human beings. It's not a one-way system, it's a two-way system. So we live in many, many cultures. And I think I also don't believe in the centrality of the human being because we need to be part of the nature because nature and culture are two sides of the same coin. So poetry is bringing that nature back into our lives.
Yes, great. Thank you, ma'am. Sir, you were saying you would like to quote something from, yeah.
While ma'am was talking, then I was just thinking whether she has ever uncorked any champagne bottle or not, because she has written, when a woman cries, can tears flow like champagne? Uncorked, straight from the heart. So it's a question like, have you ever uncorked any champagne bottle? Yes, that's why the feelings, the emotions which she has shown in the form of lines, in the form of these kind of couplets, where she has mentioned that women and trees have shared destinies, taken for granted and asked for what they have to offer. And when it happens, जब ऐसा होता है, मैडम ने जब प्रेम की बात की, मुझे ऐसा लगता है प्रेम में यहाँ जितने भी लोग बैठे हैं, कभी ना कभी या अभी अभी हमेशा प्रेम में तो रहे होंगे, और जब ये प्रेम टूटता है तो आदमी बिखरता है. मैडम ने अपनी कुछ लाइंस में ऐसा लिखा है, और मेरा भी मानना है कि जब आप टूटें, बिखरे नहीं, और अगर बिखरें तो खुशबू की तरह बिखरें. जो मैडम ने लिखा, दे कम टू सी माई ruins and return with the memory of a monument. So this kind of personality we all need to leave when we are going to leave this hall, and after reading the postcard, we all should feel very motivated that हमें टूटना नहीं है, और टूटे तो बिखरना नहीं है,
नहीं,
और
नहीं,
अगर बिखरे.
अभी तो बड़ा फेमस गाना है
जी.
उसका कला का, बिखरने का शौक है मुझको बड़ा, सवारेगा मुझको मेरा खुदा.
सो वही बिखरने का शौक है मुझको बड़ा, सो बिखरना खुशबू की तरह बिखरना है. और आखिरी में, because we have not that much time, so whatever madam has said, that between pillow and poetry and struggle is a very progressive form for her. And I would like to end the talk by advice by Khushwant Singh, which madam has written, where he says, I recall his response to a question I had asked him at college. If you don't have love, and this is a kind of suggestion to everyone, those who are sitting here, and even those who will be listening to us at YouTube also, if you don't have love, eat poetry. And if you can't write poetry, make love. Thank you everyone for coming here and making this event memorable. Thank you.
Can I just read a little? This is a dying wish, and I would like to dedicate it to my mother, because of whom I'm here, because of whom there are only 2 words in my dictionary. Ma se ma, or ma se mehnat. So this is called Sola Shringar. मेरे मरने के बाद संपूर्ण संस्कार पूर्ण करना, 16 श्रृंगार से मेरी आखिरी इच्छा का मान रखना, त्वचा पर चंदन का लेप, नेत्रों का दान करना, मुंह में तुलसी और गंगा जल से वरदान देना, हो सके तो मेरा दिल संभाल कर रखना.
क्या बात है.
पर आंसुओं से मेरी आत्मा को बोझिल मत करना, देह के परित्याग में मेरी डोली का साथ देना, खाकसार से फूल चुनकर आकाश में बिखेर देना, मेरे आगमन का न्योता खुशी से रवाना करना, मेरे मरने के बाद संपूर्ण संस्कार पूर्ण करना. जननी की गोद में बेटी सदा पराई, अपने आंचल से मुझे आशीर्वाद देना, मोह मत करना, ना घबराना कन्यादान से, अपने पिया के घर खुशी से विदा करना, मैं पीछे मुड़कर देखूंगी, मेरे जाने के बाद अफसोस मत करना, मेरे मरने के बाद संपूर्ण संस्कार पूर्ण करना.
वाह.
रिवाज है पीहर आने का, मेरा इंतजार करना, वादा करती हूँ हर जन्म में तुम्हारी कोख से ममता का कर्ज चुकाऊंगी, धरती का बोझ कहलाने वाली, फक्र से आसमां का उद्धार कर जाऊंगी, विश्वास रखना हर बार बारंबार बेटी बनकर आऊंगी, बस मेरे मरने के बाद संपूर्ण संस्कार पूर्ण करना।
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, क्या बात है। वैसे तो आप जानते हैं कि जब दिल कवि का हो तो रुकने का मन नहीं करता है और समय की अपनी बाध्यताएं हैं, लेकिन उस बंधन में न बनते हुए मैं 2 मिनट और लूंगा और सबको जाने से पहले ये कहूंगा कि दुनिया को मत कोसा कर, दुनिया को मत कोसा कर, खुद पे यार भरोसा कर, दुनिया को मत कोसा कर, खुद पे यार भरोसा कर, प्यास बुझाने की खातिर आंसू पाला पोसा कर, प्यास बुझाने की खातिर आंसू पाला पोसा कर, सिलवट ठीक नहीं लगती, सिलवट ठीक नहीं लगती, चेहरे को मत मोसा कर, चेहरे को मत मोसा कर, बहक न जाए देख कहीं मन को जरा मसोसा कर, बहक न जाए देख कहीं मन को जरा मसोसा कर, खुद गम खाकर दुनिया को खुशियां रोज परोसा कर, खुशियां रोज परोसा कर। थैंक यू एवरीवन।
Thank you. Mugdha ma'am would be delighted to sign the copies of her book. Having a signed copy from her will soon be a collector's item, for she has been a very successful collector herself. Now, I would like to request Ganesh Seli sir to please felicitate the panelists of this session on behalf of the Valley of the Words.
Yeah.